history of Tallaght can be traced back almost as far as the Bronze Age. However, the most dramatic changes in the landscape and population took place in the second half of the 20th century. We talked with Kevin Molloy, local publican, Jim Lawlor, a local historian, and Father Pat Lucey about the changes they've witnessed over the years.
I came to Tallaght here in 1960, a long time ago. There was a main street outside, there was St. Malon's Park and a few scattered houses.
When I was a boy and growing up here in Tallaght, Tallaght was a typical country village. It had two pubs, which it still has on the main street. Tallaght, Molloy's pub celebrates 80 years in the village this year.
My father, Martin, purchased the Fox's Cupboard, which was known then, in 30th of June 1933 for £1,650. We kept the name because it went back to a hunting tradition. The South County Hunt many years ago would have their meet outside the pub here, and it was fox hunting, and the name, the Fox and the Covert being the place we had the few drinks, they linked very well together. So while Molloy's were introduced 80 years ago and we put that name on the pub as was tradition, we also kept the old Fox's Cupboard. The pub has had many changes over those 80 years, the changes tying in with the social changes in the country and then in Tallaght as well. When you hadn't got a big local population, you tried to attract people from the wider communities, and you had to go with the fashion. And back in the 60s, maybe it was more a music hall type of thing, and that then developed into cabaret. And as the young population of Tallaght began to grow in the local area with more houses, we catered more for the local business with discos, and that has evolved again. Today we're changing it again. We're looking at more a town hall concept, which would include and does include things like bingo, bridge nights. So we'd now be what you might describe a social local. The majority of our customers live within a couple of mile radius, and they're what we like to call regulars. And we have a mix of business here. Food has become a more important part of it, and a lot of celebrations, family occasions are celebrated here with a food and drink mix as well. So yeah, it's good to have local business, local chimney pots as we like to call them.
In the late 60s, things began to happen. Tallaght began to develop. Houses began to be built here, estates. Bancroft, I think, was the first estate, then St. Malon's Park, and then the place exploded.
My mother went to Terranure to shop once a week for the family groceries, and when we'd get short, we'd come over to Molloy's grocery store and get bits and pieces.
It was like a country business, really. It was a pub with a general merchant's grocery delivery service. Our business extended as far as Blessington. The community in this area tried to have a self-sustainable lifestyle. There was very little state welfare support, and they kept pigs, hens, things like that, and we certainly were suppliers of the animal and the poultry feed stuff and things like that. So it was a general business, not just the pub was a smaller part of the overall thing.
I think Tallaght has grown positively, certainly in modern times, particularly with the amount of community activism that is in Tallaght, and without it, Tallaght would be probably dead.
There are different communities, there are different areas in Tallaght which have their own identity and which have their own community spirit. And You know, it's like saying, is there a Dublin community spirit, you know, with a population of what, best part of 1 million? You have a tenth of that in Tallaght. So I would very much identify maybe with the fact that it is a unit in itself, and it is a large community in itself while having individual parts too.
My earliest memories were stones being thrown at the window in the early hours of the morning in my dad's bedroom, and people shouting up at him to come down and let them in. I don't know what time it was. And I do recall him heading off down, which happened many times after that.
My earliest memory of the fields next to us was when, and he's still here, he was still here, Paddy Bagnall owned the land, and he had horses in the field, and myself and my brothers used to go out and ride the horses during the day. And when Paddy would go to work the horses were always too tired. But it was all fields, and that was our playground as well.